Hey Organics, it's Black Diamond. Today we're diving into some of the lore from Hazbin Hotel that flipped what I thought I knew about the show's world building on its head. There's something to it when a show drops a lore twist that doesn't quite feel like a twist so much as a riddle. Not the kind that shocks you, but the kind that quietly rewires your understanding of everything that came before it. That was exactly my reaction to Hazbin Hotel's reveal that Rosie, yes, that Rosie, owns Alastor's soul. When that episode aired, I did the only logical thing a fully grown adult avoiding the burgeoning dystopia around him by thinking way too deeply about a world of animated demons could do. I went back and I rewatched season 1 from the beginning. I was looking for signs, foreshadowing, a wink, a nod, a breadcrumb, anything that would suggest the show had been setting this up from the start. And there was nothing. Not a hint, not a suspicious cutaway, not even a line you could retroactively interpret differently with this new information. Except for one. Thinking about that line in this new context wasn't just a twist, it was a reframing device, a narrative lens correction. Once you put the lens on, the entire story adjusts itself around it. Rosie owning Alastor's soul wasn't entirely out of nowhere for fans who encountered the leak. The image of Rosie holding Alastor like a literal puppet circulating online, along with early animatics of their duet, storyboards, and more. But this new episode makes it canon, and that fact being canon does a lot of heavy lifting. Many fans assumed that Lilith Morningstar was the key to Alastor's backstory. The working theory was Lilith owned Alastor's soul, especially given they disappeared around the same time and Alastor showed up right after Charlie called her mom details that circulated in discourse. Lilith carries mythological weight, and it's narratively satisfying to pair an enigmatic demon with an equally enigmatic ancient power. But the show has now contradicted that assumption, at least on Alastor's end. With his disappearance, it wasn't tied to Lilith at all. It's linked to Rosie, which is interesting because Rosie is not initially framed as a major player in the show's hierarchy. Her first real appearance is in season 1 in Carmilla Carmine's Overlord meeting. She sits among the others, no more visually or tonally emphasized than anyone else. There's no ominous music, no take note of this one camera framing. She's cordial, charming, almost aggressively hospitable. If anything, she reads as the least threatening person at the table. Then season 2 flips the table. Rosie's ownership over Alastor's soul doesn't just give her leverage over him, it reframes his entire relationship to the hotel. Not only does she shut down his attempt to quit, she does it with casual authority of someone exercising a clause in the contract, not a sparring peer. And while she doesn't explicitly state that she sent him there, the implication is now unavoidable. If she can stop him from leaving, why wouldn't she have compelled him to go in the first place? Retroactively, this makes Alastor's grand entrance in the pilot right after Charlie calls her mom feel a lot less like narrative coincidence and a lot more like narrative misdirection. We assume his timing was symbolic. I'm starting to suspect it's logistical. But before we fully dive into theory territory, one piece of pre-series information suddenly matters. In early interviews and streams, the creator stated that Rosie is a native to Hell, not a sinner who rose to power. Canon has evolved since these statements, but if the detail still holds, it's significant. Native demons in Hazbin Hotel are not bound by sinners' rules. Sinners gain power through deals, influence, fear, reputation, territory, the standard hell economy. A native-born demon operates outside that system. So if Rosie is a native demon, the idea of her granting Alastor power that surpasses any sinner in hell isn't surprising, it's logical. She wouldn't be empowering him as a peer, she'd be empowering him as a subordinate, as an investment. Which raises the post-episode question, if Rosie owns Alastor, why let him become an overlord at all? Look closely. It actually lines up with how soul deals have functioned so far. Consider Husk. Husk belongs to Alastor. Husk also used to be an overlord. There's no indication Alastor removed or objected to that status. What changed was Husk's motivation and autonomy, not his potential influence. If anything, having a soul-bound asset with their own influence is advantageous. A soul you control sitting on a throne feeds you more than a soul you control sitting on a bar stool. Which leads to the theory. Soul deals in Hazbin operate more like a power pyramid than a simple one-to-one transaction. Souls feed power upward. If you own someone's influence, their deals and their influence flows back to you. Suddenly, Rosie encouraging Alastor to pursue opportunities, like when she reappears in episode 7 on season 1, reads differently. She isn't passing on deals because she's uninterested. She's passing because she profits either way. Whether Alastor gains power or makes deals, the benefits climb the ladder to Rosie. This positions Rosie as less of a fun aesthetic and more of a quiet architect in Hell's power network. And now theories are spiraling about what this means for the hotel. Some say Rosie wants to take down the Morning Stars. Others think she's grooming Charlie to lead a rebellion. Some still cling to the Rosie is Lilith in disguise, which feels significantly less likely now that we've seen the dynamics play out. The more interesting question isn't what Rosie wants from Hell, it's what Rosie wants from Charlie. Because there's a moment, seemingly small, when Rosie tells Charlie, "Tell Auntie Rosie what she can do for you." In context, it plays warm, disarming, even maternal. With hindsight, it's more intimate than it should be. There's a difference between being kind to someone and speaking to them like family, which brings us to the mythology we need to explore, Naamah. Often described in Jewish mysticism as Lilith's sister, counterpart, or even collaborator. All right, let's get into it, because a theory without receipts is just fan fiction, and the last teen angst-drenched scrawlings of fanfic I ever did probably disintegrated into ink slush and notebook dust a long time ago in a landfill far, far away. Rosie owning Alastor's soul isn't treated as a dynamic twist. No sting, no slow zoom, no theatrical cue to gasp. The reveal is woven into the interaction with disarming normalcy, like it was always true and the audience was just simply the last to know. That tells us that the writers consider this information foundational, not decorative. Hidden truths in plain dialogue usually mean the truth existed in the internal Bible long before it hit the script. Retcons are loud. This was quietly confident, which strongly suggests it wasn't a retcon, or at least is designed not to read as one. My rewatch was interesting, not because of the hidden clues I found, but because of how deliberately absent they were. Normally a lack of foreshadowing signals a late decision, but the development history of Hazbin complicates that. Season 1 material was written, scrapped, rewritten, delayed, reshaped, and then rebuilt for studio release. Seeds weren't always watered on screen. So absence of hints doesn't mean Rosie's ownership wasn't planned. It may simply have not been narratively relevant until Season 2, where Alastor's motivations mattered more than his mystique. Season 1, Alastor reads as an agent of chaos. Season 2, the chaos has a leash. The reveal changes the origin, not the threat. Camilla Carmine's Overlord meeting establishes the Pride Ring's political structure. Each Overlord's framing signals importance. Rosie is cordial, neutral, not vying for dominance, present but not spotlit. That avoids locating her inside the center Overlord ecosystem. In hindsight, it reads like containment. Rosie is framed as just another Overlord, so her later reveal hits harder. She isn't in that hierarchy, she's above it. One detail quietly denotes the implications. Early streams and interviews stated Rosie is native-born demon and not a sinner, and if this detail is still relevant, that reshapes the context. In Hazbin's cosmology, native-born demons are of a different class. Sinners earn influence, native-borns inherit it. Ring of origin, species, lineage, they're Hell's old money. And across the shared universe in Hell of a Boss, the system is rigid. Almost no upward mobility for anyone not born into a higher caste. Lower ring demons and sinners are marginalized and structurally blocked. Blitz spells it out in Season 2, Episode 11, Mastermind, when he's wrongfully sentenced for stealing Stolas' grimoire. He uses that moment to indict the aristocracy for maintaining a hierarchy that traps everyone beneath them. Hell is not a meritocracy, it's a caste system, which makes Rosie dealing with sinners more curious. Sinners are confined to the Pride Ring. They're not meant to be relative to ring-born politics. If Rosie is true ring-born, why dip into sinner market at all? But sinners are a loophole. Unlike native-borns, sinners can gain, lose, and transfer power through deals. They can be shaped, elevated, weaponized. Alastor's proof of concept. Even he, during his fight with Adam in Season 2, frames it as a thesis. Adam, of all people, should know what a soul is capable of when it takes charge of its own destiny. Souls aren't static currency. They're volatile and transformational, which is also the premise for Charlie's redemption model, but that's another video. If you're a native-born demon stuck in a rigid hierarchy, sinners are an opportunity. They break rules, scale faster, and crucially, their power can be owned. Through soul contracts, a native demon can circumvent class stagnation by building an empire not of ring status, but of acquired power. Rosie leveraging sinner souls, especially powerful ones, looks like a new economy play that the old aristocracy wasn't designed to handle. In that light, choosing Alastor is strategic. Why fight for scraps within the native-born system when you can outsource upward mobility through souls willing to bargain? If Rosie only wanted to feed the pyramid, the hotel would be pointless, and if it works, counterproductive. At this point, Charlie has no political influence, and the hotel model actively fights Hell's power economy. So why invest? Her warmth towards Charlie, especially Auntie Rosie, reads differently now. That's not just charm, that's positioning. An overlord showing fondness towards the Morningstar heir is political. A native-born calling herself Auntie and comforting and coaching her with such familiarity on their first meeting.
That's suspicious.
Up to this point, we've stayed inside Hazbin's internal logic. Now we expand the lens. Hazbin doesn't treat mythology as decorative references. It uses real demonology, occult lineage, and world building as scaffolding. Lilith comes straight from Jewish folklore. Lucifer aligns with Samael. In Hell of a Boss, the aristocracy mirrors the real Arsh Goetia, including names, ranks, sigils, and functions. When a character aligns with the mythical archetype here, that's a design choice, which is partly why the story leads us to the obvious default Lilith, only to then point us somewhere more interesting. For a long time, the story seemed to be positioning Lilith as the likely cosmic link to Alastor. Both Lilith and Alastor were said through the lore and peripheral material to have disappeared around the same time, implying a connection. And in the pilot, Alastor appears immediately after Charlie calls her mom, which felt intentionally timed to imply Morningstar adjacency. Nothing explicitly confirmed it, but the framing made Lilith the only ancient feminine power on the board. And this is what makes revealing Rosie as the one holding Alastor's soul both surprising and compelling regarding the narrative. Instead of collapsing multiple threads into one mythical figure, the show redirects us toward a broader scope of feminine power. That redirection aligns with something Vivian Medrano discussed in the early universe development. Ru, the root of all evil, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, conceived as a primordial feminine-coded antagonist tied to temptation, corruption, and the origin myth. Medrano has said that she has no plans for Ru to appear in the series, but whether or not she does is secondary. The point is that Ru existed in the blueprint. Lilith was never imagined as the only ancient feminine force, just the first one we've met. So the series doesn't reject its earlier setup, it expands it. It shifts from a single central mythic woman at Hell's root to a landscape where multiple powerful entities can influence the narrative, each with her own history, domain, and agenda. That makes the Vivziverse feel larger and less linear and more mythically layered. It evolves from one matriarchal origin point to a branching dark matriarchal pantheon. In Jewish mysticism and Kabbalistic tradition, particularly the Zohar, Naamah or Naamah is a demoness associated with seduction, song, sorcery, and influencing men and angels. She's commonly linked to Lilith as a sister, co-ruler, partner, or sister-in-law, depending on the variant. Lilith represents rebellion against the system. Naamah represents mastery of the system. Where Lilith refuses submission, Naamah weaponizes the rules against themselves. She adapts, infiltrates, influences through charm, choice, and consent that isn't quite consent, that already feels closer to Rosie's brand of power. Lilith would overturn the table. Naamah would host the dinner party, pour your tea, and have you signing a contract by dessert. Rosie invites Charlie to sit and says, "Tell Auntie Rosie what she can do for you." The line does triple work, positions Rosie adjacent to Charlie's mother, not replacing her, invokes the other feminine family figure archetype, the aunt, godmother who shapes you but doesn't raise you, echoes Naamah's mythical role as Lilith's peer, not subordinate. If Lilith is the mother of demonized womanhood, Naamah is the auntie of seductive survival in a system designed to destroy autonomy. A Rosie-Naamah alignment opens up narrative lanes, a Lilith versus Rosie's ideological divide, Charlie navigating two inherited legacies, a Sisters of Hell dynamic with competing philosophies, generational conflict that isn't child versus mother, but child versus her ancestry. It's richer than Lilith did everything. Rosie being Naamah coded doesn't erase Lilith, it balances her. Thematically, Lilith equals revolt, Naamah equals adaptation, Charlie equals catalyst to the future. Because this universe uses real demonology literally, connecting Rosie to Naamah isn't reaching, it's consistent with the show's language. The Lilith-Samael connection is intact, the Arskowisha hierarchy is intact. If a character aligns with a mythic role, we've been trained to treat that alignment as canon adjacent, not coincidence. In context, Rosie's behavior, influence style, language, and functions check more Naamah boxes than Lilith ones. Not Rosie is Naamah one-to-one, but Rosie fills the Naamah role in the cosmology, meaning Rosie may still be related to Lilith, but it's more of a familial sense. At this point, we followed the logic and the lore and the mythology far enough that the shape of the reveal becomes clearer. Rosie owning Alastor wraps the narrative gravity around three central pillars: Charlie's arc, the hotel's purpose, and the future of Hell's power structure. Let's get out the corkboard, thumbtacks, and the red string, bitches. I'm about to go in. If Rosie placed Alastor rather than him choosing to insert himself, the hotel stops being a princess tries redemption and chaos wanders in, and it becomes a young idealist unknowingly walks into a centuries-old plan. This doesn't diminish Charlie's agency, it reframes the stakes. The hotel is a convergence point for agendas older than she is. Whether Rosie intends to support, exploit, or redirect Charlie, she's invested. Charlie isn't just trying to change Hell, Hell may be preparing for Charlie. With the Naamah parallel, Auntie is positional. It bypasses Hell's formal structure and plugs straight into legacy. If Lilith is the mother who left, Rosie is the estranged auntie who stayed and learned the system. Which version will Charlie inherit? The one that left the throne or the one that learned to navigate around it? Or maybe she solves the trolley problem and finds a way to do both, or neither at all. The hotel was pitched as redemption, but with Rosie's involvement, it looks like a breach in Hell's hierarchy, a place where rules aren't operating correctly. If souls are the backbone of the Pride Ring's power economy, a pyramid, then redemption is a market crash. Lilith being interested in the hotel implies one fracture. Rosie implies another from a different direction. So the battlefield isn't heaven versus hell, it's competing models of ancient power reshaping the destiny of the afterlife. Alastor's mystique thrives on choosing chaos over vulnerability. The Rosie reveal gives him something new, a ceiling. Suddenly the radio demon has someone above him, someone with their hand on the volume knob. Every choice now poses the question, is that him or is it mandated? Can he break the leash? What happens to a soul-based economy if he does? The most interesting evolution isn't power, it's the identity crisis. Rosie is the only character who can give him one. The most important line is the one Rosie cuts off. Alastor says we really aren't getting any closer to what? Whatever the answer is, it ties the hotel, Charlie, and Rosie into a single convergence point. If the hotel is closer to a prophecy, a shift, a return, a rebalance, Rosie didn't want the truth spoken yet. Writers usually only interrupt mid-revelation when the characters know the stakes, but the audience is meant to be left spiraling into speculation. So what's Rosie's endgame? We don't know yet. But the most compelling possibilities aren't about overthrowing hell or cheerleading Charlie. Whether Rosie wants to guide Charlie, use her, protect her, or prepare her, the signal is clear. Charlie isn't just a morning star. She's an occult fulcrum, a point where multiple arcane legacies could collide. The Rosie reveal didn't just answer a question about Alastor, it quietly told us the story we're watching is bigger, older, and far more interconnected than we thought. And if Rosie really is one of several ancient forces positioning the board, then hell isn't the endgame, it's the opening move. If this is the kind of narrative misdirection we're getting from Season 2, I'm genuinely afraid of what Season 3 is going to do to my brain chemistry. But here we are, willingly theorizing about demon soul economies and Jewish mysticism because one woman in a hat said auntie with suspicious warmth. Let me know what you think. Is Rosie an agent of evolution, manipulation, or just the world's most dangerous hostess with a hobby? Because if tea time with her comes with that many strings attached, I'm starting to think that Alastor got off lightly. Drop your theories below and subscribe if you want more deep dives into animated demon politics, myth-coded aunties, and psychological warfare disguised as musicals.